Hello YouTube, and welcome back to another video, and specifically welcome back to another Matthews modelling. Just a little quick one on this Heljan Class 5 that I've been working on recently. So this belonged to a very dear friend of mine. Can't quite remember if he'd had some work done. I can't quite remember if he had the buffer beams resprayed red or whether this is just factory. Can't quite remember, but anyhow, he had this 05. And what actually happened was that the paintwork had come away off the cab sides. So under the large cab window there was practically no paintwork left, and this was on both sides of the cab, unfortunately. Now it's a little bit of a strange one, but it is something I've come across before with Heljan shunters, where they don't actually use, what's the best way to describe it, the cabs are made out of the clear plastic that they use for the windows. So rather than fitting separate windows, they spray the whole clear plastic cab and leave the windows open, if that makes sense. So rather than fitting glazing, blah blah blah, they paint around the windows and leave the clear plastic there. And I think what happened with the 05, the paint hadn't adhered to the clear plastic fully. Now it wasn't all over. There was patches of it where the paintwork was absolutely fine and you couldn't get it off, and it was, you know, it was applied correctly, and there was absolutely no problem. But yeah, like I said, the cab sides were actually absolutely ruined. Now the plan was a bit of a fix, so it was something he was looking to move on and get rid of, and when it turned up I didn't quite have the heart just to sell it and, you know, move it on, and he did gift it to me. So we got it taken apart. Deconstruction of this was actually quite easy, to be fair, and I didn't want to go on an entire repaint of the cab. So the cab front and particularly the cab rear, if I just look around, particularly the cab rear, were fine. And I wanted to keep the wash stripes, and I didn't really want to do the yellow end, etc, etc. And I did just only want to do the cab sides. So we masked off the rest of it. And the trickiest part was obviously masking the windows. So like I said, the windows aren't separately fitted, they're already there. It's part of the construction of the cab. So masking the windows was a little bit of a pain, including the windows in the cab doors, and I also didn't remove any of the handrails either. Like I said, I just wanted a bit of a quick job on this, to be fair. Masking was successful. We used some Rail Match BR Blue. Now it was an old can, and it did come out a little bit splattery, and I wasn't entirely sure on the finish, but thankfully once it had settled and dried, it's gone in absolutely perfect. Good match to the bonnet as well. I do find a lot of the time with BR Blue models from manufacturers, every single shade of blue is different. So I was a little bit worried that the cab wouldn't no longer match, but once it's been weathered, yeah, it's come out as a good fix. Now you can just see there up the side of the cab, so rather annoyingly, where I'd masked the remainder of the cab, where I thought the paintwork was good, the masking tape did pull off some little patches again afterwards up the side of the door there. Now there were only little flecks, and it's turned it into quite a good appearance of paint removal and rust. So those tiny little bits there, so there's one up the side of the door and there's one at the bottom of the door, so that just worked perfectly and lent itself to some rusting and some streaking. So this side, yeah, came out fine, and as did the other side, to be fair. You know, no real issues on that side either. So you can see again though, the masking did pull off some paint just under the cab door window there. So again, we just went down the rusting streak, and because of that, that meant it did get an all over weathering. So there's plenty of dust and muck all over this thing now. There is a driver fitted inside, but thankfully it has been a bit of a resurrection, and it's not something that's, you know, had to go in the scrap pile. And yeah, we brought it back to life. I may add the numbers, BR arrows, that's what it used to have on there, but I do quite like debranded locos. I do quite like that effect, like it can go into industry. So at the minute, I'm quite happy with it having nothing. But just to mention as well, if I just usher this 05 back and I bring this into play, so long-term subscribers of the channel will remember this Class 07 from a few years ago. Rather unfortunately, I had a new boiler fitted and the plumber knocked some boxes off a shelf, and this 07 was a casualty. The entire cab was just, on this one side was crushed to pieces. But that is when, during the reconstruction of this, which thankfully I don't think anyone can tell too much that it's been an accident, but that is when I found out about this, the clear plastic used on the cabs of the shunters. So, I suppose it's a lazy way, but also I suppose it's a quick way of getting things manufactured. I suppose it's quicker than fitting extra glazing, but it is a lazy way of creating the cabs, I think. But yeah, so that's how I found out. And so the repaint on this, the respray, all that cab side there was clear. You can just see a slight piece of it's not a crack, but where the paint came away on the front of the cab there. But thankfully we've just turned that into a streaking effect. So yeah, a bit dodgy from Heljan, but for this Class 05 and this Class 07, they were both managed to be saved and live another life. But yeah, just a quick one there. Just thought I'd show you this this Class 05. So I hope you think it's come out all right. Cracking on with the videos at the minute, so who knows what will come out next for you. But as always, give it a like, give it a share, subscribe, and let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.